Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Happy Friday. It is Friday, January 24th, and I have this little white dot here that's annoying me. You just never know what you're going to find when you pop on the live. We don't like white dots on our stuff. How you guys doing? Welcome to Massive Iron Live, longest running, live podcast and Q&A in the history of the lifting universe. I'm going to be doing this forever. 100 years from now, I'll still be here. We're just going to set up everything AI, right? I'll just come on here. You can mimic my voice. You can mimic my approaches. You can study all this stuff, and you can just have an AI, big, hairy, ugly dude. All right, welcome to the future. No flying cars, no transporters, no jetpacks. What's going on with the future, right? Hope you guys had a good week. I want you to know if you're new here, I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I've been doing this, I don't know, it feels like 6 years now. Please post up your questions if you are new. I'm here to help. Doesn't matter if the question's been asked 1,000 times before. Let's dive in. A couple of housekeeping things. If your question doesn't go through, try shortening it. Sometimes the longer questions aggravate the old YouTube, and it will not allow them to propagate. If they don't go through, try rewording them. You could be using a naughty word or a filtered word or something like that. So watch the filtered words, right? And watch the link. Let me turn off my heater here so I'm not dying of heat going into Massive Live. How's everybody doing? Are we ready to go? I got a little bit of an elbow issue. I don't know. I just picked it up like 3 months ago. Can't shake it, but I'm still moving along. Anyway, before we dive into things, I do have a Discord group, and I would like to encourage you guys to come over and join. You can find the link pretty much on, let me just post it up here, the description box of any recent video. But if you can't find it, there it is. I don't think it's good for like longer than, a week. But if you can't find it, please head over to my Instagram, @the slide into my DM. I'll shoot you the link. Also, if you're running late and you're not here when live starts, you can post your questions in my, DMs. I'll answer everything. All right, let me get this snuff off here, this crap off here. All right, let's get into things. Oh, one more thing before we get started. I'm pretty much full as far as coaching, but if you are interested in coaching, usually something's going on every now and then. You can head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com, hit the coaching tab. If you're just interested, let's hit it up. Let's talk about it. Whoops, I got Paul on here. And there's a lot of other things going on over here. I have workouts. I have a massive omnibus. You can go over there and search omnibus. Just a ton of information. It's like 9 books total right now. There's a massive collection, which is about 354 pages of my workouts. And you can click the workouts tab. My most popular service is a custom workout builder, and that is only $39. So I'm going to keep it there. I basically give you a bulking and cutting strategy and a custom workout based on your equipment preferences, split preference, all that kind of stuff. So if you check the service tab, that's only $39. I do about 5 of those a week outside of my client work. They're very, very popular. And if you need some good lifting apparel, up there. So before we dive into things, let me get this stuff off here. I want to pull up my Instagram. I want to show you guys some of the stuff that I've been posting on Instagram. Just my clients, right? Some of the client success stories. This is not everything by any means. I have a lot of clients who, don't want their privacy messed with, and I respect that. So let me present, share screen, Instagram. So I'm going to talk about a few things. You can follow my Instagram at Ben the Barman. This is Martin, one of my clients. I don't know how long we've been together, Martin. 6 months, maybe longer. Time flies. Martin has been doing a controlled bulk, and you can see he was very lean and ripped at the start, but we are slowly filling out that physique. You can see the chest, you can see the shoulders, you can see the arms, you can see the forearms, you can see the traps filling out. Everything's filling out. Martin is trusting the process and nailing it. This is a client that graduated, Shelby. We still talk via WhatsApp, and Shelby is from Australia, one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. Shelby absolutely trusted the process, followed the process, very controlled, lean bulking, a lot of hard training. And this is Sean. Sean just competed this weekend. He was with me for a year, and really proud of him. He did an amazing job at crushing his training, and then with bodybuilding contest prep, he absolutely stuck to it. The goal was to get shredded, and we got shredded. So you want to be a part of this? I'd love to work with you. All right. Let's see where we're at here, shall we? Big Ernie Peterson. How's it going, Ernie? Welcome to the party. Client of mine. Paladin from Team Massive. Do you prefer to program bench before overhead? No, I actually prefer to have it alternating. So one day you start with bench, and then you might do seated dumbbell overhead. And then the next day you might start with seated pin press and then do dumbbell bench. So I like to alternate it. I like to give chest and shoulders equal stage, and that would be my preference, alternating. Big Eric, good morning, and thanks again for answering our questions. Thank you for supporting this channel. What is a reasonable strength progression in the main movements for someone with several years of experience? It really depends on where you're at, to be honest with you. I would need some specifics because, it's very hard to give out generic information. I will say if your bench is above 185, your squat is, above 225, you would, when you're looking at gaining 50 pounds, 60 pounds a year, that's pretty reasonable, and that's about 5 pounds a month. I hate to toss out generic things, but on the main movements, if your bench is like 185 for 5 reps, and you could take it to 225, 235, 245 for 5 reps in a year, that would be wonderful, wonderful progress. On the internet, we expect to be benching 315 in 18 months. But if you take this out, starting at 185, my goal for you would be within 2 to 3 years to get that up to 215. That would be my goal. If your squat is between 225 to 275, getting it to 405 is very, very rare. But I would like to see you get it to 315 for reps within 2 years. Big Eric, can one arrange the progression schemes after experience levels? I don't recommend linear progression ever. I think it's a trash can, the worst possible progression approach. Linear progression is trash. And that's not to say linear periodization is trash. That's good. But linear progression is trash. You can just add 5 pounds to a bench or squat every week. It's just a trash can progression approach. It's really dumb. It doesn't work. And it's very, very limited. I mean, what are you going to do? Start with 45 on the bench? Really dial down. It works if you're benching 185 and you push your bench down to, like 45, and then you're going to spend like 6 months getting it back up to where it was to begin with. But no, not linear progression. As far as, being a early intermediate lifter, late beginner, after every 3 to 5 month phase of training, you can absolutely try a new venture, try a new progression scheme. We're going to be using basically the same lifts, right? So don't mess around and hop around too often, but every 3, 4, 5 months of training, a new phase is what I call it. We can try something new. No harm in that at all. Big Martine. What's your favorite way to induce progressive overload when straight sets have maxed out? I mean, that's an oddball case. When you get to 5x20, you're pretty much capped out. There's not a lot you can do. I mean, if someone gets to 5x20 on a dumbbell exercise, the only question that pops into my head is, what variation can we do? Because we're not going to take it any further. That gets ridiculous, and we're not going to add more volume. So really, it's a case of, is there a progression making the lift variation harder, right? Is there another exercise completely that we can move to? So Big Joe B, a client of mine from Team Massive. How's it going on, Joe B? How do you deal with periods of self-doubt and lack of belief in your ability? Well, this is the best way I can put it. Self-doubt is part of being human. And first and foremost, we need to just admit that. We need to come to grips with that. We need to step outside of our body a little bit and be pragmatic about the human experience. It might not make it easier, but we need to be pragmatic about it and say, okay, everybody has self-doubt, even if they're on the right track at times. You can be on the right track and have self-doubt. Everybody goes through it, right? Coaches, most coaches I know have what's called imposter syndrome to a degree. Imposter syndrome is a good thing, right? Because it forces us to reflect. It forces us to think. It forces us to process. It forces us to analyze and improve. So we have to step outside of ourselves a little bit and say, okay, just because I have self-doubt or just because I have a degree of imposter syndrome doesn't mean I'm on the wrong track. That's generally a healthy condition to have, because what scares me is when someone comes to me and says, and I'll say to them, make sure your form is locked in on all your lifts, and they say my form is good. Like, then I know they are in trouble. There's a 99% chance they're in trouble. My form is great. That's called Dunning-Kruger, where you think you know everything and you think everything's perfect and locked in, and you're not able to see your blind spots. I mean, that's an oversimplification of Dunning-Kruger or Dunning-Kruger or whatever it's called. But people that come to me and think they have no doubt at all, I am a superhero and my form is great. They'll say, hey, big, hairy, ugly dude, what do you think of this, that, or the other thing? I'll say, make sure your exercise form is dialed in for all of your back exercises, and you will get a lot out of this program. And when they say, my exercise form is superior, right, and everything is perfect, I'm like, man, I wish I could dig in. I'm not being a downer and I'm not being a hater, right? But I really want to help people. And it's the people that think they are 100% that generally have big, glaring blind spots. So let's step outside of ourselves a little bit. Self-doubt, lack of belief can be part of the process. Here's what I tell people. You don't have to believe in the pillars of success for them to work. You don't have to believe in the muscle building process for it to work. You don't have to believe. What you need to do is still follow it. Okay? You have to still follow the process. You have to still take a step forward every day. You don't have to believe something is working. But if you follow it and you follow the known process, it will take you to a good place. If you take a step forward every day, regardless of what you believe, regardless of the self-doubt, you're moving forward, right? I've said this many times over the years to people that have self-doubt. Hey, big, hairy, ugly dude, I have self-doubt. I don't believe, I don't believe I'm doing good, etc. The first thing I tell them is start tracking. Make sure you're tracking your calories. Make sure you're tracking your arm and leg size every month. Make sure you're tracking your weight. We need to look at information so it'll help clear up a little bit of the doubt. I'm monitoring things. If I'm monitoring things, I can then make adjustments. We can then analyze for weak spots. But if you are following the known process, what I teach here on Massive Iron, the pillars of success, if you are following the known process, then you don't have to believe. You don't have to believe. All you need to do is take a step forward each day. That is really the key, right? If you want to run 1,000 miles, you don't have to believe you can run 1,000 miles. What you need to do is take a reasonable approach and just get up every day and move forward. Put your head down and move forward. Plan your meals, stick to your meals, stick to the plan, stick to the program, and you will get there. Everybody has the potential to far exceed what they believe. Everybody. Okay. I'm not talking about the people that believe they can deadlift 900 pounds at a body weight of 140. I'm not talking about ridiculous. But most people have the doubt saying, I won't be able to get to his level. Most people can far exceed what they think is possible. So stick to the plan. It's a long-term process. Put your head down, do the right thing, and take a step forward. Yvonne, how's it going, Yvonne? Welcome aboard. And Rico, Yvonne and Rico from Team Massive, thank you guys for tuning in. Ice Cold Tristan 2.0. Happy Freitag, Team Massive. Another week of hard training in the bank. Good, glad to hear it. Adding weight to most of my lifts now that I've exceeded all my rep ranges and same weight I've used so far. Good. Just beat the logbook. Focus on hard training, nail that lean bulk, and beat the logbook. You're going to get there. Shelly Turner from the West Coast, Best Coast. Thanks for tuning in, a client of mine. Theoretically, which lift is harder to do in terms of recovery demands, amount of muscle recruited, managing CNS fatigue, and how often can you train back squats or deadlifts? Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I would say if you're using a reasonable amount of volume, the deadlift will have more CNS variation. So you can see probably a 10% impact on the deadlift from the central nervous system. So you could go in one workout and deadlift 400 for 5, and then you could go in the next time and 380 might feel heavy. Deadlift has about a 10% variance when it comes to CNS impact. I think I read some science on this a while back, legit science, not made up 2025 science-based science, but I've experienced it. Today, I posted on Team Massive a memory from exactly 13 years ago today that said I hit a new PR on deadlift of 675. The following week, I remember I could only lift 600. That's about a 10% variance. That can be normal on the deadlift. So when you are doing your warm-up sets on the deadlift, listen to your body. If the weight feels unusually heavy, don't hesitate to dial down the weight a little bit, 5, 7.5, maybe even 10%. Live to fight another day. Keep yourself in the fight. So not everything is equatable between the back squat and the deadlift. The deadlift generally experiences more CNS variance. But neither of them, if you train them wisely, you're going to have CNS fatigue. It's, muscle recruitment, everything varies, but they're both good lifts. I'm not going to get into any theory or anything like that, because everybody's different, limb lengths and leverages. Some people on the deadlift take more of a beating on the erector, some more on the lower back, etc., etc. So I find that the squat, when done right, takes me far more recovery time. Just because the legs are a big muscle group and tend to really get hammered, the quads and the hammy whammies. On the deadlift, because it's more focused on the traps and upper back and erectors and so on and so forth, I feel they handle the punishment a little bit better. But mileage may vary. So Big Jordan Myers, if I'm doing chest and shoulders, do I stretch after chest? No, you don't need to stretch at all. I mean, there's no need to stretch. Would I, honestly, if we're sitting together across from the bar, I'd tell you not to do it. Just go eat. You're really not going to get any benefit from stretching after a workout. I mean, if you feel stiff the next day going into your back training and you want to loosen up the fascia a little bit, then maybe I'd stretch her out a little bit, but there's no benefit. What I used to do, if you like to stretch. I just don't think there's any benefit, really. If it is, it's nuanced and micro. Some people might find a benefit, and that's fine. If you do, you do. Go ahead and go for it. I'm not trying to tell you, but I'm just saying in general, it's a time investment for not really any return. I used to just go eat, and I used to like taking a hot bath just to soak out the muscles, get some heat to the old muscle-ronies. That's what I used to do. Paladin, of your clients, what percentage are beginner, intermediate, and advanced? I have people from all over the world and all over every possible, level and goal, you name it. So it's really hard to quantify. I mean, I have a lot of advanced lifters right now, but I would say they're about 10%. The rest are in a spectrum, I would say in a spectrum, from ranked beginners to people getting back at it. I'd say about 25% of people that come to me really want to get back into things. And, they're having problems sticking to things. Big Jeff, how's it going, client of mine? Thanks for tuning in. Big Justin Jones, good morning. Big hair, ugly dude, and T Massive. Can we still progress while overreaching and not deloading? Overreaching is generally very purposeful. What you have is the theory is you have fitness levels and fatigue levels. So overreaching, you try to push your fatigue levels to the point where your fitness starts to underperform because you feel a lot of cumulative fatigue. That's the point where you probably need to deload. And if you do, your fatigue level is going to go down and your fitness level will improve relative to your fatigue level and your performance will start to shine. So if you feel overreached, you probably need to take 2-3 days at least away from the gym and just eat some food and binge watch Netflix. Don't get yourself injured. Barbell Beauty, thanks for tuning in. Happy Friday from Team Massive. How is development of the app rolling? It's going really well. I have a workout tracker that will be coming out. We've been in development for about 1.5 years now. It's doing great. I use it. We're about to put out some screenshots, and we're looking at it being out very, very shortly, like in the next month or two. All right, let's start now. Let me get some wonderful electrolytes. All right. Let's see what we got. Nolan, safety squat bar and lunge tip. Well, on the SSB, I want you to be tight a little bit. When I trained with Donnie Thompson, when I trained with him at that point in time, He was the strongest power lifter in the world. He had the biggest total. So he taught me on the safety squat bar to lock your elbows down, right? You come in, lock it down. That was a big thing he used to focus on. You don't want to be loose up here. You want to lock it down. You want to take a big breath, and you want to try to drive your butt straight down to the ground. You want to keep your core tight. You don't want to get loose at the bottom and start folding over like this. So you want to watch for that. You want to make sure you're not getting loose. On the lunge, you want to find a step forward that feels comfortable for you. When you step forward, you lower the rear knee, and then you push back up with the front foot. Okay. A lot of people will lower and put pressure on their front leg or front knee. You lower the rear knee to get in the hole, and then you push up with the front. Does that make sense? Pretty simple. Big Ben Kanabi. How's it going, Ben Kanabi? What's your opinion on Myo-reps? We were actually talking about this. Maybe you were part of the conversation. I do not know. And I'm actually going to do a video comparing Myo-reps to DC training to bulldozer, which is my variation. So let me see if I can find the information. I inquired on Chat GPT earlier, and here it is. Hold on a second. Ladies and germs, we're going to pull it up. 1 second. All right. So I asked, let me pull it up. For those of you unfamiliar with what Myo-reps is and bulldozer training. Bulldozer training is my rest pause system. I developed it somewhere around 2006, and it evolved through about 2008. I ran it for an entire year. I wrote articles back in the day on it, way back in the mid-2000s. And basically, and I share this in the first article I ever wrote, I took the things about, and this is the way I phrase it, I took the things I personally didn't like about DC training, and I evolved it into what I call bulldozer sets or rest pause sets. Basically, the difference between bulldozer training and DC has 3 sets, and you're pushing each of them to the limit. In bulldozer training, I found I could do more, and I like to do more on many, many exercises. So generally, you do 5 or 7 mini sets. You can do 4. I have as low as 4, what I call a 4 bull, what I call a 5 bull, and then you can do 7. Basically, and I also have escalating bulldozer, where the deeper in you get, the longer you rest. It can start at 15, then 30, then 45, then 60 seconds, and then upwards of 90 seconds. So the deeper into the rest pause protocol you get, the more cumulative fatigue you pick up, the longer you rest in between sets. So I have ESC bull, which is escalating bulldozer. So long story short, somewhere around 2006, I started to develop the system. I didn't like DC. I felt the workouts just, it's a great system. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just personalizing things. So I created bulldozer. Now, when Myo-reps was created about the same time. Sometimes when I talk about bulldozer training, I'll get comments on YouTube like, well, that's Myo-reps. Well, they're not the same. Or occasionally I'll get one of the militant people that'll say, you stole Myo-reps. Not really. I mean, they were developed. I didn't even know what Myo-reps were when I was developing bulldozer. Bulldozer and Myo-reps were basically developed around the same time in a vacuum apart from one another. I didn't know what was being developed in Norway, and nor did he know what I was doing in the basement in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. So I asked Chat GPT to break it down a little bit. Myo-reps and bulldozer training are both rest pause training methodologies developed in the early 2000s, aiming to enhance workout efficiency and stimulate muscle growth. Myo-reps was introduced by Norwegian strength coach, I don't know if it's Borge or Borge, Fagerli, excuse me, my mispronunciation, in the mid-2000s. This technique involves performing an initial activation set, to near failure, followed by several short sets with minimal rest periods. The goal is to maximize muscle fiber recruitment and induce hypertrophy efficiently. Bulldozer training was developed by Steve Shaw, the big, hairy, ugly dude, moi, around the same time. It combines rest pause sets with progressive resistance, featuring limited rest between sets, typically 15 to 30 seconds, and a higher number of sets per exercise. This approach aims to increase workout intensity and effectiveness while reducing overall gym time. Both methods emerged in the early 2000s, focusing on optimizing training efficiency, promoting muscle growth through strategic rest pause techniques. There you have it. Thanks, Ben Kanabi. Big Ben Kanabi. All right, rat race. After 3 months off, what should my first deadlift workout be structured? 135 for 2 sets of 5. That's it. Build slowly into there. You can move. I don't know what your deadlift was before, but when I am off for a long period of time like that, I go right to the bare minimum. 135 by 5. Yep, that's what I do, because you need to allow the connective tissue to get up to speed. Your strength could still be there, but you feel a little bit detrained. If you're a 600-pound deadlift, you're maybe 185, but then just kind of build up 10, 15, 20 pounds of workout from there until you feel like you're in a pretty good place. Ice Cold Tristan, what other things can I do to max a machine if hammer strength machine is full of plates? You can do rest pause work. But if you are maxed out on 3 sets, it might be time to graduate. You have 2 choices. Either I continue with a lift or I graduate. So some lifts you're going to max out a little bit earlier. I mean, it's pretty impressive that you maxed out a machine, but you could do a pre-exhaust where you do a set of max rep push-ups, rest for 15 seconds, and then hop on the hammer strength. That would work, but it's probably going to have a limited run for you. But, either you're going to have to do something like that, or you're going to have to punt it and do something different. And again, if you guys want to join the Discord group, head over here. I'd love to have you on board. All right. Big Paul, the Night Dragon from New Mexico. Good morning from Team Massive. Good morning, Paul. One of my favorite people on planet Earth. Ice Cold Tristan 2.0. What will you say to a person if they tell you that you shouldn't do overhead press in a squat rack and then say the squat rack is only for squats? I would say, number one, kick rocks, mind your own business. It's a gym. It's a power rack, not a squat rack. So, number one, I would say, I do. Thank you. And put it back on and continue along my business. I don't care what they have to say. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to run with my balls tucked between my, knees. People say a lot of stupid stuff, right? But number one, it's a power rack, not a squat rack. People squat in a power rack, and you can power in a squat rack. I go to a commercial gym, and there's no safe place to bench. I bench in the squat rack with the catch pins. I don't blink an eye. I don't care. If I want to do pin press, seated overhead pin press in a rack, I go do it. I'll wait for a rack like everybody else. But you know what? I'm going to declare now, officially, 2025, that a squat rack is indeed, all squat racks are indeed power racks. We shall declare this and make it so, henceforth forward. And if anybody doesn't like it, tell them to go twitch somewhere else, right? Tell them to go take their ADHD ass and move along. We ain't got any time for it. I really don't. I would just, thank you. Earphones back in. I'm getting back to work. Don't engage. Don't engage. Don't even. The best way to deal with that is hearing problem. Back in. Don't engage. Don't be dismissive. Don't be aggressive. Don't be passive aggressive. Don't be passive regressive. Don't be anything. Just move along with your business. If they don't like it, that's their problem. They can kick rocks. Logan, what are the big takeaways you can learn from the 70s and golden era dudes? I trained in the mid 80s and, the mid 70s, 80s, a lot of the same thing. The key thing back then was we knew what hard training was, and that's not to elevate us above anybody else. It was just the vibe of the era, right? It was get in and work hard and punish and destroy and build up, right? We would look for hard things to do. We would get creative and supersets and pre-exhaust and all kinds of shenanigans. The modern era, you have paralysis by analysis. Pre-exhaust doesn't work, or this doesn't work, or science says this, or science says that. That's all good and well. But I want you guys to remember something, and the biggest takeaway from the 70s and 80s. Hard training is our focus. Anything you do in the gym that facilitates hard training is a positive if it's stacked side by side with progressive overload and sustainability. You do not need someone to tell you you can't do pre-exhaust. They can take this and turn it 180 degrees, my friends. They can turn up the volume. Because as long as it's reasonable, as long as it's hard training, as long as it's focused on progressive overload, and as long as it's sustainable for you, you can do it. Those are the rules. I don't need anybody to tell me how to train. Because as long as hard training is in the mix and progressive overload is in the mix, you're fine. I used to do things like lunges supersetted with leg extensions. Pre-exhaust doesn't work. You know what? That's some of the most brutal stuff you can do. I don't need some knucklehead, some theorist trying to tell me that doing lunges and then leg extensions with 15 seconds of rest doesn't work. I know it works. I know it works, and I have no doubt it works. We're looking at intensity and mechanical tension and stress on a muscle group in the lane of progressive overload. So we're looking to push sets for maximum safe quality reps. If you do that and you like a technique, you can do it. So in the 70s, it was in the 80s, it was all about like everything. Just you didn't need to be told what hard training was. There wasn't a fear. You didn't have doubt. There was freedom. People trained hard. A lot of times you see Arnold and these other guys getting a little bit sloppy, but they were brutal with the mechanical tension, and they were brutal with the consistency, and they were just brutal. So even though I would like to clean things up a little bit, we need to get back to that, the brutality, the trust in the process, the trust in hard training. Thank you for tuning in. Vanja, don't want to pronounce it wrong. Big Paul, what's the best way to progressively add calories on a weight plateau on a bulk? If you're plateaued and your weight's not moving, generally I would do 150 to 200. We don't want to go above that. We want to wait a little bit and see what happens. Damn, Shelby and Sean absolutely ripping it up, as are you, Martin. Client Shelby looks full and round in a good way. What routine did you do with him? I was with him for a long time, and we did a lot of variations. Nothing crazy. It's a case of Shelby knew what he liked in the gym. So we started with the classic starting points. We start in massive arm. He liked to do fewer sets, but push everyone harder, which is fine. Over time, He developed a very specific exercise preference. That's the way you do it. So nothing unusual, not a specific method. He just used my methods, if that makes sense, and evolved it and personalized it. How many sets do I need to go to failure most of the time? All right, let me get a drink. Number one, repeat after me. We don't use failure in the massive iron world. We are evolved. We are evolved, just having a little fun. No one needs to panic. We push sets for maximum safe quality reps. Push your set for as many quality reps as you can, stopping that set when you feel like you might fail on the next rep or when your form starts to break down. So we want to live to fight another day. On squats and deadlifts, obviously you're going to be several reps away from failure because it's safer. So failure we don't use. We use max safe quality reps. At minimum, over the long run of your training, you want to have one set per exercise, max safe quality reps. Now, there are some people that this concept chaps their posterior side, right? But as long as you push one set for max, I almost said failure, one set for max safe quality reps, you're in a good place. It's interesting, the dynamics on the internet. When I say you want to push at least one set for max safe quality reps, that doesn't mean like on bench and presses, you can push all of them. They're very, very safe. Same thing with like a pendlay row. When you push to failure, all it does is the bar starts to slow down. So each exercise is different. We understand that. We understand that each exercise is different. So how you train on each exercise is up to you. And you can evolve based on the feel of that exercise. Just make sure at least one set is for max safe quality reps. At least one set you're trying to beat the notebook from last time. The dynamic on the internet, when you say this, you'll get some people that heads will explode. And on the other hand, the same people will say you should only do one set per exercise and take it for max safe quality reps. So we're basically, the thing to remember is we have mechanical tension involved in an exercise that is targeting a muscle group or areas of muscle groups. And even if you aren't pushing every set to the limit, over time, you're floating the overall volume up and the overall stress up on the body and the overall tension up on the body. So the way I like to phrase it is, if you have an exercise, think of it as a weight externally being pressure externally being applied to the body. The bench press and the row, they're pressures and stresses being placed upon the body, external forces. And the body will push back against these stresses and pressures, right? And it will grow in response to the external pressure being placed upon the body. So if the pressure becomes greater and greater over time, progressive overload in the lane of hard training, the body will continue to push back and grow or flower or blossom or bloom or provide big ass gains, however fancy, schmancy you want to get with it. Does that make sense? Ignore the chatter that you have to do every set for max safe reps. It's a long game to go from starting point to maximizing your muscle mass. So, I say be 80, 70, 80%, 100% of the time. Big Rob. Hey, Steve, why are so many people still promoting twice a week frequency if there's no difference? You get these, first off, most of my clients use frequency training. 25% use body parts, maybe 10% use full body, and we have a lot of really interesting programs in the mix. The people push specific frequencies, and here's the thing, frequency doesn't matter in the long run. Everything evens out. People push one variable, like everything must be trained to failure, or everything must be a certain frequency, or everything you see rep range. Rep range have to be between 5 to 8, or on it has to be high volume, has to be low volume. People push this stuff. I wouldn't call it for nefarious reasons, but they lack an understanding of the maturity to understand the bigger picture of the process. And I'm not being I'm not trying to be confrontational when I say that. If you look at lifting over the last 70 years, and this has been my approach, I've spent my entire professional career analyzing the programs from everyone from Marvin Eder to Reg Park to Steve Reeves to John Grymick to Lou to Arnold to Sergio to Serge Nubret. I'm going to be doing a video of him next week. I hope to record it tomorrow. On and on and on. You find that there are common pillars of success. Okay. There are commonalities you must have in lifting. You must have hard training. You must have progressive overload, right? You must have some sort of focused, controlled, wise bulking protocol. You must have sustainability. You must have a reasonable volume. You must have a reasonable exercise selection, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the only things you must have. If you look at every successful lifter, man, woman, and alien in the last 70 years, they all use a different frequency. They all use a different split. They all use slightly different exercise selection. They all use slightly different approaches to rep ranges. But the commonalities are the massive iron pillars of success. There are no magic exercises. There are no magic rep ranges. There are no magic frequencies. And there's no magic number of sets per exercise you must push to the limit. Anybody who believes so is caught up in the tide of their specific belief system. And that can be very, very much the norm in this industry. Now, you have the choice. You have the choice. Are you going to believe one narrow view of hypertrophy? Or are you going to open your mind and understand that the path is wide? It's not granular. That doesn't mean you can't do 2 sets per exercise. That doesn't mean you can't train with frequency. That doesn't mean you can't use a body part split. That doesn't mean you can't do 4 sets per exercise. You can do anything reasonable that is sustainable as long as it adheres to the massive iron pillars of success. And you can find these in my first book, Massive Iron, or in my new series, Massive Omnibus. You can train how you want and like to train as long as these pillars of success are in place. That's the beautiful thing. I teach freedom, not recklessness, but freedom. And the other people are teaching a narrow path. The only thing I would ask you to consider is if you look at training over the last 70 years, is it a narrow path? Is everyone using the same training frequency? Is everyone using the same split? Is everyone training exactly the same? No. The confusion is everyone's training differently. I don't know what to make of this. And then you go on the internet and you have people that'll say, this is the only way, and that is the only way, and this frequency is the only way, and every set must be to failure, and you can only do 1 set, but no, you must do high volume. So you get confused because you look out there and everybody's training differently. I train different from GVS, and GVS trains different from Alex, and Alex trains different from Bald Omni-Man. On and on and on we go, and you are confused. And then you go on the internet And you get these knuckleheads who will proclaim this variable is the magic. This rep range is the magic. This frequency is the magic. These exercises suck. We saw that just this week. Influencers putting down lunges and hammer curls and basically every classic lift that has been a foundation of progress in the last 70 years. So you're confused because everybody trains differently. You're confused because then you go on the internet and everyone says, this is a magic, this and that and the other thing. And you don't know what to make of it. The only thing I can say to you is welcome home. Because I teach the broad path. I teach the pillars of success that will work no matter how you decide to train. This is the hill I will die on because it is the truth as best I know it. I've been doing this a long time, and there are no magic frequencies. There are no magic exercises. There are no magic rep ranges, and there's no magic dogma. So this is up to you. You want to believe there's a granular path, a narrow path, a one-way path, or do you want to believe the path is wide and there is freedom as long as it is reasonable and hard training and progressive overload and a reasonable frequency and a reasonable exercise selection and consistency and patience and nailing your lean bulks? All right, Big Eric. Thank you for the information to get 50 pounds in the squat. You're currently training with some dudes who always say, I have to get stronger first to get big. Don't just focus on arbitrarily trying to, get strong. We want to focus on getting everything we can out of every rep. And in that lane, you'll naturally get strong, right? So you do need to get a lot stronger than you are now. But it's not just let's chase numbers and that's going to be the magic. The magic is we focus on hard training and getting as much out of every set as we can most of the time. And from that, we try to, beat the notebook, beat the last time we trained by at least one rep sustainably, safely, but in the lane of hard training, not just tossing weight around, trying to get one more rep. I'm currently bulking. Aside from my waist being too big for my pantaloons, what are a few easy ways to tell when I should do a mini cut? First off, the scale. The scale is everything, okay? You want to be gaining about 2 to 2.2, maximum 2.5 pounds per month, generally. And you bulk in this lane. And when you feel you're starting to get so far away from home that doing a cut is starting to intimidating, you might have gone too far. So the best way to do things when you're starting out with bulking is bulk 10 pounds, then cut 10 pounds. Bulk 10 pounds over about 4 or 5 months, cut 10 pounds. Keep this cycle, and then when you gain confidence, maybe you can step up to 15-pound bulks, etc. Let me get a drink. Do you have any content with how to warm up sufficiently? Yes, tons. I have, if you search warm up, let me show you guys something. If you go to the main page of the old YouTube, and let me just go to my channel. Tons and tons. I have a table as well that shows how to warm up specifically for your weight. So let me present. Share screen. All right. At the main page, let's just search warm. How to warm up for squats, deads, and bench. This one's 11 years ago. How to warm up properly for big compound movements. This is the one with the chart. I have other ones that talk about it, but this is the one with the chart.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance.
Let me make this a little bit bigger.
The money I saved, thought I'd get a wax figure myself.
Rep max or doing a. So in this one, there's a chart It's harder to read, but you can go over to my website, superlivingtoday.com, and search warm up. Or you can go to this video and it won't be blurry on your computer because I have a video and a video. But you have the starting weight and you have the warm-up sets that you should do. So the video is called How to Warm Up Properly for Big Compound Movements here on Massive Iron. It has everything for free. Big Ian, can you train to make your physique look a certain way? No. You can't build a hardball looking bicep if you have a potato. You can't change the shape. You can expand what you have. You could just only train legs if you want to look like a clown, or upper body if you want to look like a clown. But no, you can't change the shape of a muscle group. You can only make it bigger. Big Patty, what should you do if your workouts take too long? Generally, if your workouts are getting above 75 minutes, like I would say if your workouts are past 90 minutes a day, you probably need to do an assessment of what's going. Do you have anything before you work out that you're doing that is very, very time consuming? Foam rolling and prehabbing and stretching and, whatever else you're doing. Let me look at your program. That's what I'm here for. Let me look at it and say, hey, man, you probably have a little bit too much volume, or we could nip and tuck things here. So come on over to Team Massive, post your program. I'd be glad to help. If you don't want to do that, slide into my DM on Instagram and I would be glad to help you out. I help everyone. You don't have to join Team Massive. You don't have to sign up for coaching. I help everyone. All right, let me get that thing off there. Where are we? I gotta find where we're at. I lost track. Sorry, there's so many questions here. There we are. If one uses a rep range and keeps the weight the same for a number of sets while staying in that range until he exceeds that rep range and moves up in weight, what progression scheme is this? Basically, you're doing straight sets. The weight is the same for a number of sets. It doesn't really have a name. I don't call this really anything. I call it generally last set max reps. That's usually what I do. Elite. Hey, do you program heavy singles or with volume work? Sorry, I read after. I don't know why my brain read after. With volume work. What I have a protocol called the threes protocol. And basically what that is back down sets of about 10%. You don't have to use back down sets, and I'm going somewhere with this relative to your question. You can do straight sets. But when I was at my strongest, I would work up to however I felt on that day for squats or deadlifts or bench. A heavy double or triple or quad or 5-rep set, maybe with chains or off blocks or whatever. I gave myself the freedom to play on that top heavy set. Some days I'd go on deadlift and want to do 600 by 4. Some days I'd want to do 625 with chains. Some days I'd want to pull 3 inches off the ground. So I used to do more intuitive work, and then I would follow that with back down sets, which is basically now the threes protocol. So specifically heavy singles, you could. I would not do heavy, super heavy work on deadlift because I believe it is not very beneficial and it takes more than it gives. Just make sure you aren't beating up your body and you would be fine. Big Lee. Hey, Steve, playing derby tonight. Bowels still exist from doing GOMAD. Bulk. The plus ones have started to come. Good. Some are the same. Others are down. Got my hammer curl. You can't do hammer curls. Dr. Mike says don't do them. Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like you're rolling along smooth. How do you know when you are intermediate and then advanced? All right. So hold on 1 second. 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I have a resource for you. I've gone into this in a video, and I think the video really dives into things really well. I'm going to answer the question, but I want people to also know. Let's just search intermediate. Are beginner, intermediate, and advanced simply ego terms? Strength standards for beginner, intermediate, and advanced. No. Okay. So a beginner is not really certain of exercise form. A beginner is not really certain of a lot of things, dialing in bulks properly, how much volume is enough for me weekly. Beginners dealing with a lot of extra soreness. An intermediate has developed a track record of reasonable confidence. They are functional when it comes to exercise form. They have developed a track record of progress. Has nothing to do with strength, really. They have established a track record of plus ones and of muscle building and of consistency with their nutrition. And they have dedicated some time to bringing their exercise form up to a functional level. So there's kind of a dumbed down explanation. Advanced basically have the confidence. They are very advanced in their muscle and strength development, and they can program for themselves, and they have evolved their programming to fit their needs, and their form is pretty much locked out. So, and advanced has been doing it for a very long period of time, very consistent, and they have the strength and muscle to back it up, and they know how to program for themselves. How to avoid torso dominant physique. Do a lot of leg work. I'm not being dismissive, but I mean, you got to get the legs strong, got to get the legs big. I don't know what more to add to that. I'm not, not trying to be dismissive. Ice cold Tristan, you always got to do what you can do, right? That's all you can do. If your upper body grows faster than your legs and you're killing it, you're doing what you can do. That's all you can do, right? Based on the form check video of my squat that you reviewed, would you say I'm built up? I don't even remember. Dude, I don't want to burst your bubble and sound like a dick in any way, but I look at 200 form videos of squats a week. I don't even remember, to be honest. Don't take that the wrong way. I don't remember. If I can look at it on Team Massive, maybe I can find it. Let's see. Let me see if I can find the form check. And I don't want anybody to feel like that. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay. I'm going to download the video and I'm going to upload it in here. So we'll take a look live. And thank you for understanding. Okay, first off, I got to mute it because if there's any music in the background, YouTube will have a heart attack. All right, side view. This is ice cold. Let's go. Very deliberate getting under the bar. That's what I want to see. I don't want to just see jump and run. The squat rack scaring me a little bit. That scared me a little bit. I was like, he's going to trip and fall to his doom. First thing I look for, does the squatter check his feet? Does the squatter check his feet? Once you unrack, you need to go out and check your feet to make sure the angles are proper in the stance with just a glance. He glanced, he did the glancey poo, he made the adjustment. Next thing I look for, big breath, brace. Big breath, brace. Okay. From here, you want to kind of lock down your elbows slightly. You don't have to pull down with the strength of Hercules, trying to bend the bar over your back. Now, his head is neutral. It's not looking down. When your head looks down, it'll throw your weight forward a little bit and tend to place more stress on your lower back. From what I look at, from what I want to see here, is that your knees open up naturally and match the angle of your feet. If this is the angle of your feet, that has to be the angle of your knees. And this is where a lot of squatters go wrong. I also don't want to see you throw your butt back and hyperextend your lower back. Keep the core tight and try to drive your butthole straight down to the ground. Keep your core tight, braced. Try to drive your butthole straight down to the ground. Okay, that's what he did. Kept it. Let's look at that again. Brilliant. Okay, drove the butthole straight down, kept the torso upright, didn't just throw the hips back. Perfect. Okay, we're almost at depth right now. You can see the center of the barbell. The barbell is over the center of the feet. Perfect. Watch the barbell to see if it pushes forward. If it pushes forward, a lot of times what happens is the squatter's knees are inside of their foot width. Also, you want to watch the heels. If the heels start to lift and roll in, that usually means the knees are pushed in and there's a lot of inward pressure or hesitancy or tentativeness. If the knees don't push in and the knees naturally open out and you stay braced, the heels will stay planted. Now, you also don't want to see the lower back get loose at the bottom. You don't want to see a loss of tightness and for the bar to roll forward. That was about a perfect squat. That right there, bar straight over the center of the feet. Depth, is arbitrary. Some people just can't get deeper. That's a beautiful squat. Everything technical is what I want to see. Just do your best to stay disciplined as you go through a set because we can pick up fatigue. Stay tight. Don't dive bomb. Stay controlled. You'll be in a really good place. So it looks like you are in a wonderful, wonderful place. And let me see if I can remove the video from the stage. All right. All right. Where are we? Since I find it easier to sit in a deep squat with 225 on my back for time, however, I find it harder to pull deadlifts since my torso and shin bones are long. Yeah, I mean, do what you can. Adjust the deadlift if you need to. Don't hesitate to use a hex bar, if you need to. Big Rory, a client of mine. How's it going? I got an itch in my nose. What's going on? All right. Hey, Coach, when coming back to the gym after a week of sickness, should I go back to lifting? Generally, when you're more than 10 days from a workout, you want to drop weight about 10%. If you had the Rona and you were really, really sick, you probably want to drop things down to 2 sets, maybe back off 10%. Listen to your body during warm-ups and just kind of adjust from there. But I wouldn't go immediately back to the heavy work. You should be fine the next week. Big JP John Parker. His parents were so poor they couldn't afford an H. Just humor. Does supersetting chest and back? No, it doesn't make sense. There are a million things you can do in the gym. And this triggers people when I say this, but I'm just sharing my opinion. There are a million things you can do in the gym. Supersetting opposing muscle groups gets into the cardiovascular fatigue area, the CrossFit area. I don't want to get into my back exercise with limited energy, with slightly depleted, with any degree of cardiovascular fatigue. If you are supersetting chest exercises and you are beating one muscle group down and then continuing to beat it down with some form of an easier progression, then that makes sense because we're targeting one area. And you can rest maybe a brief 10, 15 seconds so there's no cardiovascular or minimize cardiovascular fatigue. I don't like this approach at all. I think there are many, many things you can do better in the gym than supersetting opposing muscle groups. Big Billy Baker, a client of mine, curious your thoughts on the belt squat. Is it a variation that you would alternate with regular back squat? No. And I'll explain why. Alternating it with leg press or hack squats or pendulum or V squats or lunges or whatever, yes. Squats you want to do every week. I find if you don't do squats every week, you lose some of the central nervous system strength, so to speak, connection, so to speak. I also feel I lose the connection with form, and I also feel there's a minor degradation of the connective tissue. Squats are one of the few exercises you have to do every week. Bench press, you could alternate bench and dumbbell bench or bench and incline bench. You should be fine. But squats, you have to do every week. Deadlifts, you could rotate deadlift and hex bar, deadlift and power shrugs, deadlift and RDL, deadlift and stiff leg deadlift. A belt squat, great choice as long as it feels good for you. And yes, I would alternate it with a potent secondary lift. Thoughts on the idea that muscle damage soreness should be avoided? What? Where did this stuff come from? You can't avoid muscle soreness if you're training hard. You know, never ceases to shock me. You think you've heard it all in 40 years of lifting, and then you get this optimal. I'm not going to go off in a rage and rampage. Simply, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You can't avoid soreness. You can't avoid, you have to push yourself, and pushing yourself, there are consequences. Build back stronger. That's the way it works. We're not in the gym to punish ourselves, but I don't know the context here, and I don't know who said what. If anybody can shine a light, but just on the surface, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. In your opinion, are slow eccentrics a given? You don't need to slow your eccentrics. You just need reasonable control. If you're properly controlling the weight, you're naturally going to get a decent time under tension, decent mechanical stress. Slowing the eccentrics is just going to create a lot more unwanted soreness. It's really going to tax the fascia, and you're going to get a lot of extra fascia soreness. And it's not the good soreness. It's not going to add any benefit over the long run. No, don't do it. Control. Max safe reps equals making gains and no joint pain. Generally, yeah. The prime directive is to stay in the gym and stay training. And like when we arbitrarily toss out training everything to failure, we forget one of the major cornerstones of lifting and that is every exercise is different. No two exercises are the same. The demands of every exercise are different. So we push for max safe quality reps, and that's going to vary depending on the exercise. Hey, David, how's it going? I just got in from a big dog walk. About to start cooking to my favorite podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Big Ice Cold. In your opinion, which one causes the majority of strength and size gains? Mechanical tension, metabolic stress? I don't want to go down this trail. You want to have mechanical tension and stress. That's going to be a byproduct of controlling the weight and not being reckless. Being reckless has its own set of perils and downsides, beating up the body. Let's just focus on the things, that a lot of this theory stuff is just the fodder for nonsense and wasted time. You want to have control. Let's just put it in the real world perspective. Guys doing lat pull downs like they have a seizure, like they're doing a seizure. Right. Oh, look, I got 9 reps. You also look like a monkey that is on meth, right? You look like you're having some sort of a medical issue. When you go into the gym and you're just chasing strength, like I'm gonna I need it. Last time on seated cable rows, I got 9 reps. Today I need 10. Ready? 10. I am victorious. Right? No, you're not. There's no tension and stress. Let's get everything we can out of a set. Control it down. Get a slight stretch on the upper back and lats. Drive the elbows and shoulders back to feel it with focused power. Control it down. Not slow. No. Control it down. Slight stretch. Drive. Lat pull downs. Okay, drive the elbows and shoulders down, get a back and lat feel, control it up, get a slight stretch. We want to get everything out of a set we can. All you guys need to worry about. All the other debates and discussions, we want that quality mechanical tension in that lane. Big Michael. No question today. Thanks for being the world's best coach and a crazy strong dude. Thank you, Michael. Michael is one of my clients from Germany, one of the best members on Team Massive. Thank you. Meet Patel. How's it going? Hey, I came across your channel last month, and Rep Goal System has helped me a lot. As a beginner, I know now when to add weight. Good and wonderful. That is a very solid system. Just know you can adjust it if you don't want to push every set to a challenging degree. Keep up the great work and just stay in touch. Don't hesitate to join Team Massive. Big Matthew. New here, Steve. Thank you for tuning in. What is your most important win in power building? And will you most important win is you guys, really. That's all I can say. I started this a long, long time ago with a forum in the mid to late 2000s, and just with community and just putting out the best advice I could. And, I can't believe I'm here 20 years later. People are everything to me. My legacy means something to me. What I put out means something to me. Am I perfect? No. Do I try to continue to learn on a daily basis? Yes. And doing this every week helps me because I throw myself in the fire. There's no script. I can't make things up. And I'm going to shoot you guys my honest opinion. Some people don't like that, right? And sometimes I make mistakes and sometimes we learn and grow together. But I'm okay with that. We're all in process. But my biggest win is you guys. Helping people. That's what I get. That's my purpose in life. I love lifting more than anything I've loved in my life. I love lifting. I love the control. I love all the wonderful things that adds to your life, the mental strength, the physical strength, the prowess, the ability to survive a car crash, all the good things, the ability to improve your sports performance, the challenge of doing things you couldn't expect you could do. That's the greatest win. Would I write a memoir? Maybe if I have time. For the 10 people that, want to hear about it. The biggest key for me is leaving my information behind when I pass on. And I want to put together a storehouse for all of it. and free access for all of it. Not that I think my information is the greatest in the modern landscape by any means, but I want it to be available after I move along, just for people that feel connected to it and want guidance. Big Martine, to anyone afraid to commit to the bulk process, do it and trust the process. Yep. And if you're afraid of a proper bulk, let me help. Patty, you bet, man. Thank you for allowing me to help. Milan, how's it going? Big Justin Jones. We got about 10 questions left, so just a heads up. Good questions today. How long is too long to have no plus ones on a lift like bench? There's no such thing. If you're an intermediate and you're benching like, say, 185, 205, and you add 1 plus 1 to your top set every 2 months, you're adding 30 pounds to your bench. That would be the low end. So if you get to the point where you're beyond that, we might have to look to see if your nutrition is in track or if anything else is broken. Big Patty. Do I need to warm up for every exercise? I like to do a feeler set for every exercise. Doesn't take long, but you want to get the feel. You want to get the mental connection. You want to make sure everything is feeling okay. Like sometimes you'll bench, and then you're going to move on to dips or dumbbell bench, and you might have some weird fatigue in your chest that you're not aware of after bench. So I like to do a feeler set. Moderate weight, not a lot of reps, just to make sure everything feels good. So it's a good idea. Big Alonzo. At 6'2", how much should a muscular lean man weigh? So your max potential at 6'2" is going to be roughly 200 lbm. If you could get as big as you could muscle-wise and have no fat at all, which is impossible, but that's your lean body mass, you'd be at 200 pounds. So if you wanted to be shredded, right, like really shredded, 220 would be like what, 9% body fat, 8.5, whatever. Max natural potential, pretty much close to the stage. Let's say you're going to be 10 pounds lower than or 15 pounds lower than, about 185. Anywhere up to about 215 to 225 with reasonable body fat and decent muscle. Iggy, how do you feel about the 5-3-1? No opinion. I just try to focus on my programs these days. I want you guys to do my programs. I have a lot of amazing programs. If you go over to superlivingtoday.com and search workouts, I have a lot of programs. Coach John Christie, who many of you are not familiar with, had a 5-3-1 program long before Wendler's 5-3-1. That's not a diss, right? But I put together a variation of a 5-3-1 program based on numbers, not based on Wendler's. So check out my programs at Super Living Today. Rhyme, how's it going, Rhyme? What do you think about Chris Beardsley? I don't even know who he is. Sorry, I have to Google him. Man, Chris Beardsley. Soccer player? Chris Beardsley. That Chris Beardsley. Paul Carter's buddy. I left a comment on Chris Beardsley's, one of his posts, really intelligent, well thought out rebuttal to something that he claimed. And Chris blocked me on Instagram and blocked me on Twitter. Just trying to have a conversation. Wasn't coming after him. And Paul Carter then came into my inbox threatening me on Instagram. Paul Carter is Chris Beardsley's partner in crime. Paul threatened me on Instagram. And Paul, you can go fuck yourself. You literally bullying bitch. That's what you are. Paul is an asshole. And Some of his information is good and some of his information is bad. But I try to interact with Chris because there's no harm in having intelligent discussion, right? And Chris just zapped me, blocked me, and Paul came and threatened me in my Instagram, basically saying, I could troll you and harass you if I wanted to. Okay, thanks, Paul. That's exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but it's exactly what he said. I don't get into that stuff. I'm here to help you guys. Chris can block whoever he wants. It's his social media. If he doesn't want to debate me, he doesn't have to debate me. That's fair. But Paul, who threatens people? Why do we feel the need to threaten people, over fitness and lifting? You tell me. What degree of douchery do we step to when we feel we need to threaten people? I used to, way back in the day at Muscle and Strength, I tried to work with Paul Carter. We brought a couple of his articles over to Muscle and Strength, and I'd work with him as an editor. I met him at the Arnold, hung out with him at the Arnold, and he used to coach at some of the powerlifting meets. I'm not sure why, things need to go in that direction, but people are what people do, right? And that's just the way things are. There's always going to be a percentage of people that do that sort of thing. I don't like Paul. I have no respect for Paul. That's outside of his information. But I don't, Chris can do whatever he wants. He can block me if he wants. Iggy, what's the best method to increase grip strength? The one thing you want to do is probably get Captains of Crush grippers. Don't buy the whole set right away because, the first couple are going to be challenging. You can start with those. I like to do wrist rollers to get my forearm strength up. You can do pinch grip. You can do crush grip. And you can do static holds. I have a video on this channel about the different types of grip work. So if you go over to the main page of YouTube and on my channel, the main page of my channel, and I'll show you guys what the name of the video is. Let me pull it up. All right, so present, share screen, share. You go over here, we're winding it a little bit so you can see the search bar. Okay, we search grip. If you go over to the main page, grip training for deadlifters, complete grip training guide from 10 years ago. Some good stuff. Check out the first two videos. The grip training is going to get in the pinch and crush and static hold grip. So it's a decent starting point. Patty, are you still an engineer? Do you coach only? I was never an engineer, just for record. I went to college for astrophysics and mathematics. And I was very much a programmer when I was young. I didn't complete college because I liked lifting, and I became so OCD that I would avoid class to sleep and recover and eat and lift. That's the truth. I went back to college after that. In 1999, I started a business, a web design and custom computer building business, and I got back into programming and building websites. And from there, I got into building my own website, and here we are. I coach only full-time now. I'm a full-time coach. Outside of that, I do custom workouts and run Team Massive, but coaching is what I do full-time. Very few full-time coaches because it can be very hard to, do that. But yeah, I am a full-time coach. All right. I used to follow your warm-up protocol, but I instead started doing 5-3-1 on my warm-ups before my sets. Let's see, for 5-3, that's fine. I mean, every weight, that's basically pretty close to my warm-up protocol. The lighter weights you're using on the first set, the more you can reduce or compress that. So that's fine. Patty, if you have a 58 inch to 60-inch waist now. How do you find a weight belt that fits? You can get a custom belt from Longhorn. I know other people do it, but I have a custom belt up there on the shelf. You can't see it. It's from Longhorn. A lot of these companies will do custom belts. So you just, it's part of what they do. How long is too long in regards to rest between sets? Not really too long. I mean, if you're getting to the point where it's 8 to 10 minutes, then you probably need to pull back a little bit. But sometimes I work in between sets. I'll do a client message and then I'll go back and do a set and I'll do a client message, respond to a client message, or respond to Instagram questions. Sometimes if I get a really long client message or a really long form check, it might take 8 minutes. You're going to be okay. The body's not going to decondition, or you're not going to need more warm-up sets. You're generally fine, but there's really no too long as it's reasonable. And thanks, Carl. I appreciate it. It took a minute to click. Joseph. Afternoon, all. What's your thoughts on dumbbell-focused bench program? Absolutely. Dumbbells are a great way to build strength. They're a great way to build muscle. You don't even have to use barbells if you don't want. You could use incline dumbbells, regular dumbbells. You can use alternating dumbbells. You could use a barrel press. You can even use a step down and move down to flies. As long as your overall selection of exercise over the course of a week makes sense, you are fine. All right, guys, 3 questions after this. Last call. If I have an upper day, is it better to do all chest? No. I would alternate. Number one, if you're going to have a day like that, I would alternate. The reason why, and this is just my opinion, there's no right or wrong, but if I'm doing chest, I want to have equal energy and focus and resources going into each. So I want to balance it as best as I can. So the first workout, I might do chest first. The second workout, I might do back for first, and then I'll alternate. By doing a back exercise sandwiched in between chest exercises, you're allowing the triceps fatigue and the chest to get back up to speed a little bit better. And then you can attack that next chest exercise with a little bit more focus. Thank you, Iggy. I appreciate it. Ian, do you need to follow a warm-up protocol? Why would you go by feel? I mean that respectfully. Have structure. Don't do random. You can evolve it as you move forward, but no, don't do random. We need to warm up the central nervous system. And I hope you're talking about, warm-up sets and not, all the other stuff. But you need to properly warm up your central nervous system. If not, you're not recruiting a maximal amount of muscle fibers, and you're just increasing the likelihood of injury. All right, do you think you can build muscle? Yeah, the body's not that fragile. That's something I teach. The body is not that fragile. Absolutely. I have clients that are doing wrestling and jiu-jitsu and running and all sorts of things. As long as you train hard and you nail your nutrition, you're going to build a ton of muscle, because muscle building is the prime focus for the body. If you're placing stress, your body's going to recover. Your body's going to recover, and it's going to build back stronger 100%. It might take you a few months to acclimate to the demands of doing both, but you will build a ton of muscle. All right, guys, that's it. Please head over to Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Ben the Barman. And please join Team Massive. Join Team Massive. We'd love to have you there. All right, guys, have a great weekend. See you next Friday.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.
Thank you, guys.